Okay, let's start with the good stuff first. Being the V60 Cross Country derivative, it really represents quite a cool compromise, I think, between your standard station wagon and the SUV. You can see it firstly in the styling. It has roof rails, it has skid plates front and rear, that finishing below the side sill there, and also cladding over the wheel arches. It has a raised ride height too, 200 millimeters for this car, which is kind of 65 millimeters higher than the standard V60. But more than that, it also has four-wheel drive. And this is a Borg-Warner derived all-wheel drive system that apportions torque to the wheels most needing it. Within the confines of a city like Cape Town, narrow roads, it wasn't an ideal environment for the Volvo V60. And my commute to work involved some traffic and a few rolling hills. And the result was that I really battled to keep the fuel consumption down lower than 10 liters per 100 kilometers. Out in the open roads, easily 7, 8, no problem. But in the cities, I had to drive with a really light foot. I very rarely flicked the lever over into sport mode or used the paddle shifts, which are an option on this car. But still, at best, 9.6, occasionally touching on 9.5 liters per 100 kilometers was the return. It was out on the open road that the Volvo's 2.4 liter turbo diesel really came into its own. At 158 kilowatts and 420 newton meters of torque that come into play from as low as 1,500 revs per minute, the V60 Cross Country had plenty of overtaking punch in any gear. Some of my colleagues did note that the ride was a little hard over smaller road imperfections. It didn't bother being too much. Perhaps I just got used to it. What I did appreciate, along with the prodigious grip offered by these 18-inch tires, was the confidence and the grip that the all-wheel drive system really gives. So it was through sweeping bends like these, along with this punchy motor and ability to change down with the paddle shift if you wanted to, and in sport mode, that this cross country embarrassed quite a few other more powerful cars. I've got to say though, what really impressed me about the ride was its abilities on gravel, which is what we're on now. I took the car on several road trips out into the country, both for mountain bike races and weekends away with my family. It's almost like this is its preferred surface to be driving on. As a road trip car, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the engine. It's not part of Volvo's new Drive E 2-liter range. It's an old school 2.4 turbo diesel, but it's got plenty of punch, which meant plenty of overtaking abilities out on the open road. So yeah, a great long-legged road tripping expert. Okay, now being a Volvo, you shouldn't be surprised to know that safety is front and foremost in their minds when designing this car. And along with a passenger and driver airbag comes full curtain airbags for front and rear passengers, and also adaptive cruise control, which I found really useful and part of the driver safety option, which is a 28,500 Rand option on this car. And that included your blind spot assist, so a little light would come on if there was a car in my blind spot. There's lane departure warning, you can switch on and off, and also auto dimming in the mirrors. Now in terms of interior design, always a strength of Volvo, the V60 Cross Country is starting to look a little dated now, and that's only up against the high watermark set by the new generation XC90 and more lately the S90, which have, I think, the best car interiors on the market. That said, it's still typically Swedish. I love the minimalist approach to it. It also has, honestly, two of the most comfortable front pews you will ever experience in a car. Occasionally I suffer from a little bit of lower back pain, but that has never been an issue driving the V60 Cross Country on any long road trip. The adaptive cruise control worked particularly well in the car, and I found it very useful. It works with a radar based in the nose of the car. It's activated here on the steering wheel. And then also I could change the distance I wanted to follow the car in front of me. So using these buttons on the steering wheel, you'll see there, I can set it to a slightly shorter or slower speeds, or longer if I was traveling faster. Also, it has lane departure warning, which is on a button down here on the fascia. I press that, you can see it now, I've switched it on, and then if I went out of a lane, I'd get a slight buzzing to tell me that I wasn't concentrating enough. So on those school runs every morning in rush hour traffic, dropping my daughter off at school, all I really had to do was kind of focus on the steering. The Volvo did everything for me. It has one fail-safe mechanism too, and that's the city safety system. And if it detects that I haven't braked in time, I get a warning on the heads-up display in front of me, a loud noise, and the car would brake itself. And that did save my bacon on one morning where I wasn't quite concentrating and the traffic had stopped dead in front of me. The Volvo employed its braking system and it saved me from a minor fender bender. So those were the good points, and now for the bad. And in my opinion, there aren't too many of those. One could be price. This is 550,506 Rand in standard spec. We have two options with our test car. One was the Sport Pack and one was the Driver Support Pack, which bring it up to 597,000 Rand. So just under 600, it brings into competition some very heavy hitters in the SUV crossover segment. You look at the top spec Tucson, Sportage, VW's very good Tiguan, as well as the two big players in our market, the Toyota Fortuner and the Ford Everest. Now, the big advantage those cars are going to have is space. That is the one downside I think we're talking about here. Now, you pay a price for this svelte sloping roofline, and that is it doesn't quite offer you the same boot space as you might get in an SUV crossover. It's still enough, I mean probably more than your average hatchback, but with that on offer, it did make things a little tight for some weekend getaways with all our cycling kit and the family. We do have a 2D roof box which helped on the odd occasion, but I think for a family requirement that needs a lot of boot space, this is one area where the V60 Cross Country does fall a bit short. Now, if you're looking for a family car alternative to the many SUV crossovers that ply our roads today, I can only recommend this Volvo V60 Cross Country. I love the punchy turbo diesel engine. I really appreciated the all-wheel drive abilities both on gravel and on tar. Yes, perhaps a little bit compromised in terms of the rear boot space, but that really didn't bother me too much. It was the perfect car for my lifestyle. Weekend getaways with my family, some adventures with the boys doing mountain bike races. I can say after 12 months, I'm genuinely going to miss it.